I'm looking for people to walk into my life that I'm paying attention to who are going to offer me something that can change my life or at least alter the direction I'm headed in. That's an influencer to me.
Influencer and YouTuber are the second and third most desired jobs of kids growing up right now.
They've been hurt. There's been disappointment, and they've just kind of hidden it, Tim. And what I do know is this. Once we come to terms with some of the personal issues of our lives, our professional life advances at astronomical rate.
Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the Hook Better Leads podcast. And today I have Reggie Brock on me with Beacon Supply. How you doing, Reggie?
Good, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're talking about the fight to find a real mentor. And I had to work in fight into this because you got a black eye. What happened?
Dude, it's getting old. I woke up this morning and my wife's like, what in the world's under your eye? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And it was just black. I've got no clue what happened. But after 33 years, she's kind enough to at least point stuff out to me so I don't embarrass myself. But it is what it is. And it's on there for the good. And to your point, fighting to find a good mentor sometimes takes some struggle to it, but they're important to all of our lives.
Absolutely. And I've had some good mentors before. I'm not going to lie. A lot of them did come with a price tag. I've hired a lot of coaches and stuff like that. But there is something a little different to a mentor-mentee relationship than just a coach and a student relationship. So how do you find a mentor? Or do you have any ideas about that?
Yeah. So I have the privilege now of what I consider mentoring several guys across the country. And I think some of it has to do, so first of all, look at the word mentor. What does it mean? I thought it was this unrecognizable characteristics, things I didn't have. And so it kind of scared me. And I'm like, so I finally just looked it up. And the word mentor just means experienced, trusted advisor. So to find a mentor, you need to find people who have experience in the area of interest that you're looking. Right? I mean, you don't need to go to someone for advice that's not been there, done that, and can explain to you maybe some ways to overcome and compress time. That's the thing that I love to do with guys is, look, I've failed, I've messed up, I've had successes, but I can compress your time. I can redeem your time if you'll just pay attention and listen and apply these principles that I had to learn that you're not going to have to spend as much time trying to dig around and figure out. So I think being experienced is important. And then, it says trusted advisor. Listen, trust is a valuable commodity. And I always look for people that I don't just trust, but have a history of trust with others, right? I mean, when I run in and I start meeting people, I look at the people they run with. I talk to those people that they run with before I would ever ask them to consider mentoring me. So I want somebody who's trusted in life. I want them trusted in maybe a specific industry, whatever it may be. I want them to be trustworthy because if I'm gonna spend time with them and them with me, I want to make for sure that it's time well spent. And then the final word is the advisor. Listen, mentors are not dictators. They should just be advisors. They should look into your life based upon the information that you share with them and give advice. And so when I'm interacting with one of the guys that I'm having this relationship with, and to me it's a relationship. It's not transactional. Now listen, and you said something earlier about, is there cost or should there be costs associated with mentors? I think it's to each its own. I mean, there are certain times that pricing or charging is one thing, and others there's not. But at the end of the day, you need to find somebody who can give you advice. I had a guy tell me this one time. He said, why I chose to want to have you in my life? I'm like, no, I don't. He said, because you're not afraid to tell me no. And you're not afraid to tell me that I might be going down the wrong path. Because when I go into a relationship like that, I'm looking at all the compartments of your life, and I'm trying to draw pictures together that will help you become better at whatever the effort you're after. And so, I hope that kind of gives you a clear idea that mentors are an important piece of our life.
I think sometimes like finding a non-paid mentor type person is good because unfortunately just with the incentive of money, there's a lot of people in coaching, a lot of people that haven't really done something that are selling something. You know what I mean? Like, and so you kind of got to watch that. And there's always room. Like if you just need somebody to keep you accountable to what you said you wanted to do, you can pay somebody to keep you accountable to what you said you wanted to do. But then again, without the wisdom component, without the having been there component, and a little pushback occasionally, because sometimes we need a little pushback, because maybe we're chasing something like a phantom. Like we're going to also talk about influence and being an influencer and the fight to, I guess, is it also a fight? We're fighting. We're fighting to try to seek something long term and of substance, of value, not just that phantom of influence. And so let's do a little sampler platter and dive a little bit into that topic before we go in deep on either of these, which is it's very seductive, this allure of being an influencer. Even I talked to roofers that have been around 10 years and roofers that are just starting out, and they want to be influencers in the industry. They're spending time on TikTok. They're spending time on video. And some of it's for other roofers. And they don't even have a business that's for other roofers. They have a business that's for homeowners. But we kind of get attracted to this clout. So, like, how do you... It's fun. It's dopamine. It's a dopamine hit of likes and stuff like that on social media. So how do we keep ourselves, and I am included in this, how do we keep ourselves on the track of like focused on the things that actually matter for our business and our lives of value instead of going off on this track of following the dopamine hits?
So I think you have to really look at why people are trying to be influencers as a start. And I think there's just a hunger and a desperation for applause and attention. And I think it's not because everybody's so weak or everybody's like, deprived in terms of attention. It's just like, that's the noise, man. I mean, everybody talks about getting more likes and everybody getting more views. And let me say that there's nothing wrong with this. Here's where I would split hairs on that. If you're getting attention, like you're very good at that. I mean, I watch you guys like you that get my attention. What I want to know is when you get it, what are you going to do with it and what value does that bring to me? If you're just trying to get me to look, dude, I'm not interested. If I look, I want you to tell me something, show me something, direct me in a way that value can be produced in me by having met you. If we meet just because you're popular and you can help me move into something that will bring value to my life, even if I buy something from you, I want to know if you're getting my attention, what are you going to do with it? And I think there's too many guys out there right now who are just for the sake of getting attention. They're just blasting us and loud to us constantly. And, I'm sure they get paid by somebody, but it ain't me. And I want to know if you're getting my attention, what you're going to do with it and what value it brings to me.
Yeah, and I think I'm certainly guilty of this, but I want to note, too, I have read this very good book. It's called The Attention Economy. And essentially it talks about these apps. These apps are making money off your attention. So the app themselves, let's say Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, etc., are influencing people to create content because they essentially reward them with dopamine and money, because both Facebook and TikTok now have like a creator fund that pays people to do this. But in smaller ways, it's always paying us with likes, right? Yeah. And paying us with dopamine. So they have an incentive to addict you to this phone, and I am addicted. So I'm currently speaking from like that situation, but I just am noting that them doing that then creates advertising opportunities for them, and then they get money. So they're getting money from addicting you to this, and we're all kind of in this cycle. And I'm probably not going to get off of social media. I have people on my team that are like off of social media completely. I kind of feel like I have to for my business, but it's a hell of a drug. I'm just going to say that, like the cell phone and the social media stuff is a hell of a drug. And I'm an addict type person. I'm 12, 13 years sober now. So I'm kind of that type of person. So I really struggle with this. This is actually like a problem for me. I'm not trying to like just confess here in this podcast, but I struggle for real.
Well, I listen, I'm on social media. I do a lot of stuff on social media. But the thing that the diatribe you just went to in terms of advertisers and marketing and paying me for this, you didn't tell me what that means to me as the viewer. And that's the trick, right? The trick is all these platforms are paying you, the creator, to get audience or like to get people to look at you. But there's not the transition of, okay, what do we do with them next? It's like nothing wrong with it. I wish that I could do enough that the TikTok or somebody would pay me. But the fact of the matter is, I still want people who influence me or people who get in my life and they start challenging me and they hold me accountable and they bring value to me. That's an influencer. People that are, I think that word is too loosely used in our industry today. Like we're an influencer. What are you influencing? I don't understand. I need to know what you're influencing to call yourself an influencer. And so influence to me is somebody who comes into my life or a product or service that comes to my life that revolutionizes or potentially revolutionizes an area of my life that has lack in it. And if you're not influencing me in a direction, good, bad, or indifferent, why are you calling yourself an influencer? Basically, they're hired guns for marketing and advertising, and nothing wrong with it, but let's not confuse it. Influencers are not just people who get a lot of eyes. To me, a true influencer is somebody who can walk in your life with a product or service, and it alters the way things are moving for you in a different direction. Yeah. That's somebody who influences something.
Agreed 100%. I feel like you're calling me out. You're calling the audience out. You're saying, what are you ultimately driving towards? Get clear on that. And then if you are, and I don't consider myself an influencer, but I appreciate this vibe of like, where are you going with this attention and how can you get really clear on that and call your audience to that? Whether it's your service or it's a leveling up of their life. And something I think about with our service all the time is like, I want to give time back to entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? Like ideally we're building a service that takes things off their plates and gives them more time to spend with their families and on things that they're good at and like.
Yeah.
That's what what I'm going towards. And then a lot of the things that I'm like kind of my allies in this, like sales coaches and different people that I'm talking to and listening to are also just essentially trying to help them feel more, feel more powerful in their business, like feel like they actually have some control.
If you truly believe in what you're doing and you want to be the best version of yourself and you want to build a great organization, there's no other place to do that besides the Roofing Academy.
Yeah. And feel like, so I see a lot of people that they want to help, because there's a lot of people spinning their wheels. You know what I mean? There's a lot of roofing company owners and other people in this industry spinning their wheels and not feeling traction in their business. And that's an unfulfilling place to live. And so I think like ultimately what I want is people to feel that traction and to feel themselves moving forward, whether it's one day or 1 year out of your life. I want you to feel like you got somewhere. You know what I mean? That there's something like of real progress in your life and business that you're not. I always say like, I don't want the same problems. Like I want problems, but I don't want the same problems. I want new problems every year.
Yeah. And I don't want people to think, nor you to think this is a chastisement against anybody who's using that, but call it what it is. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I want to know, and I'm sure there's a lot of guys who are doing a lot of things in a lot of different ways that are helping a lot of different people. But I think as a word and as kind of a subject matter today in its relevance, I don't know that we have a bunch of influencers. I think we have some great marketers. I think we have some great, promoters, and I think we have some people that really understand the mechanics of the technology. They're taking advantage of it, and more power to them. But the fact of the matter is, I'm looking for people to walk into my life that I'm paying attention to who are going to offer me something that can change my life or at least alter the direction I'm headed in. That's an influencer to me. And most of this, I mean, a lot of the content I see from these influencers out there, I'm like, dude, I don't really care that you're holding a flower and you're like petting your dog with the other hand. I'm just saying, and I mean, stuff goes like viral, and I'm like, oh my God, how?
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently on the hunt to go viral. I hope everyone knows that by now. However, I am not able to do it. The TikTok algorithm hates me. But I do want to note something real quick. I'm sure you're just like appalled by that. But you know what's funny? I'm looking at the study right now. Apparently, influencer and YouTuber are the second and third most desired jobs of kids growing up right now. And number one is doctor. Doctor, then it's influencer and YouTuber. That is mind-blowing. That is the last like 5 years. Like this is a weird big shift in society of people growing up wanting this and like living for it a little bit, which is scary.
And it don't take 8 to 12 years to become an influencer or a YouTuber, right? I mean, like you have to do to be a doctor. And again, there's fat money in it. I know that. And people are doing great at it. It's like, I'm good with it. I wish I could do some more of it. But the fact of the matter is that does not make me an influencer because I get eyes on me. It just doesn't, in my opinion.
No, I agree 100%. I think, it's not going to fix your life if just like money won't. You know what I mean? Like people ruin their lives with money. I always say this quote, but somebody said that more businesses die from indigestion than starvation, and that really stuck with me. There's a lot of businesses that get a lot of business, and like whether the owner has an addiction problem or gambling or just kind of gets hurt from the amount of business, cash flow issues. So there's a lot of kind of phantoms, and people are chasing the revenue phantom, not the profit phantom sometimes, or not phantom, but the revenue, not profits. There's a lot of phantoms in this industry, I think, and phantoms for small business owners in general.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, so let's get back to the mentor conversation because we talked about what's that?
That was fun.
It was fun. One question. Actually, you know what? I'm going to ask you this question. Then I want you to talk about the question. But when you're gone, what will people think and say about you, Reggie?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. And I've thought about this a lot. And what I really want people to say is whether there was one encounter with me or 100, they left feeling better about themselves and their direction. That's what I want. I mean, I want people to be inspired to become better. I want people to feel like their personal growth is still ahead of them, not behind. And for them to encounter me and to walk away inspired to do more with whatever's next is really all I care about. I don't, if I can accomplish that, then I feel like I've left the legacy I really want to leave. And that, so if you think about that in terms of legacy, you can't ever leave something you didn't live. So you hear a lot of people talking about legacy today, and they just don't, in my opinion, speak enough about how that's built. And the way that's built is the way you live. Because the way you live will be the legacy that's determined, right? So you can't live 45 years of your life in one direction and the next year live a different one and die the next, and then all of a sudden people forget about the 45 years before. It's critical to realize that every day we live paints some kind of a definition onto the legacy that when people will live that we'll remember when we're gone. So for me, like when I encounter people through a podcast or I encounter people through out speaking or I'm selling them, I want them to walk away going like, I'm inspired to do more with whatever's next because of me. And if I can do that, my life's going to be full.
I love that. I'm trying to teach people in my company to inspire. You know, we put a little frame on our desks that says it's part of my job to inspire and motivate. And it's a weird thing because I talk to our leaders. We have like 5 kind of key leaders besides myself and my wife. And to say to them, I would need you to inspire. And they're like, how? What does that look like? And I'm like, thinking about what it means. What does it mean to inspire? Because that is part of leadership, right? Is to inspire people that they could be better and do more is part of your job. It is part of our jobs as leaders. Like, how do you inspire when you're leading people?
Yeah. So I think that this sounds really like bland and boring, but I think people look to leaders who have consistency and conviction. There's a real consistency to their conviction. And so it's inspiring to know, to me, that the people I look to actually accomplish and I can celebrate with them.
Yeah.
And so, inspiring people, I think, is more of an intrinsic thing than it is extrinsic. So I think that I can say things because I can motivate people. But inspiration almost has to come from within. I can say stuff and try to pull things out of you or push things into you. But inspiration comes when I decide as an individual internally, I'm going to pull what's needed outside of me to get where I'm going next. Inspiration is internal to me. Motivation is external to me. I can't inspire somebody to do something that's not in them. I'm not saying I can't. It's just really hard.
Yeah.
But if I can provoke you by motivating you to start really gathering what's in you to prepare you for what's next, and I can kind of keep pushing on you, and if you'll take a little pull inside of you and take what I've motivated you and start acting upon it, that's inspiration to me. We can inspire, we can motivate. I mean, there are inspiring stories, but the fact is, my job is to motivate you. Your job is to be inspired enough to take action.
I like it. Can we talk a little bit more about anything that you've learned the last couple of years as far as leadership goes? Because sometimes finding a mentor is somebody in your company. You know what I mean? And would you suggest people, let's say, a young employee or a young business owner, where do you find these people? I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, but like any other topic or ways to find people that could be mentors?
So I would just keep my eyes wide open all the time, because here's what I think, Tim. I believe that all of us have a unique gifting that once voice is established, meaning I start speaking, because here's what I think. Not everybody likes what I'm saying, nor should they. They don't belong to me. I don't belong to them. But if you're quiet and you just sit on the sidelines and don't do anything to start looking and hearing and voicing who you are so that somebody out there can hear it and it connects with them, then you're doing yourself a disservice. So for me, when I speak, there's a word that I use constantly that anybody who knows me hears. It's the word metron. And the word metron is my ability to influence the whose I can influence here on earth while I'm here. So it's my sphere of influence. And when I speak, there's some people who go like, shut up. And then there are other people who go like, oh, wow, that's what I needed to hear. You see, our voice print has a way of connecting with people emotionally or mentally, spiritually, or however you want to look at it, that creates the connection. What you can't do is try to make something happen that's not ready to happen for you and whoever you're looking to mentor or walk into a deeper relationship with. But you've got to keep your ears and your eyes open to opportunities and people, because you're going to run into somebody and you go like, oh my gosh. And then you're going to think to yourself, if I could ever spend time with them. Well, you need to ask.
If you're not using company cam, you're in the old ways. You know, if you are taking pictures, you're going through extra steps of having to download them on a computer, having to email them out to people, show somebody, print them out, whatever it is. Company cam has everything you want.
You need to discover and delve a little bit, because you don't know until you ask. And so
I do want to know,
you just got to be careful not to overlook somebody. Go ahead.
I love that. I just want to note here too, if they are at all a public figure, let's say Reggie, first you should listen to his podcast. You should listen to some of his podcasts.
Yeah.
What's your podcast called again?
Live Exposed.
Live Exposed. I just want to note that, like, if you're trying to get information / influence from somebody that you believe has stuff of value, it's good to listen to the public stuff that they have out there first, because I think of it as like free mentorship. Like, if you really listen to like 10 of Reggie's podcasts, you will in a way have mentorship from Reggie. You know what I mean? Like, there is an element of like, people come to me sometimes and they ask questions that are really basic. I'm like, you haven't listened to any message. That's okay. I mean, I'll try to answer. I'll try to be of service. But I got a half an hour for you today, or an hour. Right. And you could get all this information from, I try to do everything I possibly can to give everything I know away all the time. Like, so it's okay to go and listen to their publicly stated information, their videos, their podcasts, if they have them. And I think some people would do well to just go and get the free information, because there's a lot of free information that people are trying to give.
People call me, the first thing I ask, and they start talking to me about, hey man, I'd really like you to consider pouring into my life. I'd like to be accountable to you. The first thing I ask them is, what of me have you heard already? Yeah. What makes you want what makes you think you and I want to be in a different kind of relationship? Mm-hmm. Well, I just heard. You've heard what? I make them. And if they, to your point, if they're like, well, somebody just told me I'm like, dude, you need to go and listen to my podcast. You need to hear some other things. We need to date before we get married, right? I mean, we need to start kind of like seeing whether or not this makes sense. And, because people get enamored quickly with a personality type one way or the other, and they just think that's what I want. To your point, grab their content and start looking and listening and see if you still feel the same way before you make the call or reach out.
Yeah, and I know that you're a God-fearing man as well, so would you say church is occasionally a way to find a mentor? Like, there is a lot of kind of like older men at church that sometimes like know stuff and been around the business world. So would you say that's one option too?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that there's places like that. I don't think it's limited to that, but I mean, you've got, before you can ever start thinking about relationships, you've got to plug into some communities. You cannot just isolate yourself in life and just hopefully ride in one day from over the mountain into the village and like pick a partner to help you with the next part of your journey. You need to be in communities where you can start knowing people and hearing from people. We can't isolate ourselves and expect a relationship to be built. Whether it's a church, whether it's a faith group, or whatever it is, you've got to start plugging in, open your ears and open your eyes, digest some content, and then you'll start finding your way in terms of who you really need to be talking about and considering as a mentor. Because it's scary out there. There are people that you hear, you get enamored with them, and then you start like really getting into some of the true way they feel, and they can lead you down paths we don't belong. And so just be careful.
Yeah, I want to note, so events, as we're talking about influencers and the amount of people trying to influence us all the time, right? Yeah. There are so many events. I see people, because they went to one event where they didn't see something of value or something, I can't help, because I'm going like 7 this beginning of this next year. I don't think you should go to 7 as a roofer. Okay? Yeah. I think you should go to a couple a year. I think that, like, to your point, being part of community is good. And you should go for the community, not just the speakers. And I also think, because I'm a vendor, I'm sure that this is part of it, but you should go for the vendors too, like actually connecting with vendors is part of the reason I think it's good. I think if you go and you find can actually start a relationship with a couple vendors, I think that's part of it. But there's people that get really cynical about events out there. Like there's people on Facebook that are just like spreading this like, don't go to any events, they're pointless vibe. And I always get a little weirded out. I'm like, you probably go to something. Like I'm guessing like you're a social person. You're probably just going to like local business events more than roofing events. I think roofing community is really cool. Like I think I'm just proud to be in a community. Like community is good. Community is good.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that bothers me about just the abundance of social media. As good as it is, sometimes even good people make bad statements every once in a while, right? Occasionally somebody's going to say something and they'll regret it immediately after they say it or post it on Facebook. And so I think any of
that
us,
time I said I wanted to go viral earlier in the podcast.
right.
I'm embarrassed by it, but it's true. I do, but I'm embarrassed.
No big deal. But I think that the roofing community, and I'm part of it. I'm blessed to be a part of it, especially with Beacon and being around people that have really thrust me into that industry. And the support that I've got has been, now does every conference I go through the same to me? No. I mean, are there some better or, in my opinion, carved out differently in a special way? Yeah. But all of these conferences I've seen are really, their intent is not really to try to make a bunch of money, because it's really hard nowadays to do that, especially with the major production that goes on in these places.
Yeah.
But they're trying to offer some value. And this is what I tell, and I've been privileged to speak at some stuff in the past and then coming up again. And I tell people this all the time. Every speaker that comes up, you have the opportunity to take one thing they say, one thing, not everything, one thing, and take it home, and it become useful for you in your business, maybe with your family or whomever. Just look for that one thing. And I have talked to people in the past who've come to conventions or these type of events, and they've taken away one thing that has revolutionized their business. Guess what? If you're not there, you wouldn't have got that one thing. So I think you can find strength in these communities and a lot of value from these conferences.
100%. What event are you speaking at coming up?
So I'm speaking at, Jim Johnson has an event called Mission Retreat. I'm leaving next week for that. He's got about 70, 80 contractors. It's not a convention or anything like that. It's just a deal he does every year. Then I'm speaking at SRC in January, and then
awesome.
I'm doing a retreat up in Denver, Colorado. I'm sorry. Roofing Summit. It's Randy Brothers puts it on in February.
So I'll be at Roofing Summit with you, speaking or on a panel, I think, and then I'm doing a breakout at SRC.
There we go.
So I'll see you. I'll be excited to attend your talk. And just so many events. I mean, I think it's really fun, but I'm also like I'm trying to talk to roofers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good ones to choose from. I think you should go to a couple in the off season here. I think they're dope. Let's see. Anything else we should talk about? I really appreciate you talking about the mentor thing, influencers, and kind of like trying to find substance and value instead of just seeking to be an influencer. Anything that you kind of like have that's like, how you've seen the industry shift because you've been around for a little while. How have you seen the industry shift over the past 5 years, good and bad? Yeah,
a couple of things that I think are really good is that people are more collaborative now than they've ever been. I've been in roofing since 2010, so almost 13 years now. And, buddy, back when I first started, everybody got in their own corner. They held their stuff close to their chest. And, for me to succeed, you've got a fail mentality. And it's just not like that anymore. And you go to some of these places, you can pick up the phone and call contractors all across the country, and they're just so great. They're just so gracious with their tips, man. I mean, they want to help, and I'm not saying it's that way all everywhere, but I'm seeing a rise in that where people are they're like, I have been blessed, my business is great, and I want to pour out to somebody else and help them. That's been a huge shift. So where we had a lot of privatization of information, and I don't think it's as much like that anymore. That's been a huge shift. The other thing is, I think that you can't help talk about roofing and see that there's a whole lot of outside money coming in right now. Purchases, these roll-ups, these acquisitions, all of this stuff. And it's changing the landscape of our communities in roofing. And so, those have been two big shifts that I have seen over the last, you don't have as many storm chasers anymore. I mean, guys that are just, they pick up and, they go to a place, and then once they've pulled all the low-hanging fruit, they go on to the next place. I don't think that's as viable right now as it's been in the past. But the thing I think I'm most excited about is I think that there is a rise of interest in true personal growth and development. Let me tell you something. You can talk to your blue in the face to me about professional excellence and advancement, but if we're not concentrating or giving attention to us personally developing and dealing with some challenges that we've had in our life over the years, our top out is capped. And what I mean by that is you can only reach a certain place if there are things that are holding you back, that are unresolved, that are keeping you personally, they'll affect you professionally. And so one of the things that I would like to leave with this podcast on is guys to realize they need to turn a little bit more introspective for their growth. There's great coaches, there's great opportunities out there for us, but the fact of the matter is the person you look at in the mirror every morning is going to dictate and drive tons of your success, personally and professionally. You cannot neglect that person. And listen, over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of physical kind of opportunities come our way to get in better shape. And I did 75 hard. I loved all that kind of stuff. I'm calling people now to become mindful of this internal man that's screaming for help in a lot of ways. They've been hurt. There's been disappointment, and they've just kind of hidden it, Tim, and they've just kind of I'm just left it unresolved, and it's eating away at them. And what I do know is this: once we come to terms with some of the personal issues of our lives, our professional life advances at astronomical rates. It's just fast, it's furious, and it creates more advancement for us. But you can't overlook the challenges internally that are holding you back. Personal growth and development is where my heart is right now.
Ooh, it's beautiful. And I know that there's a lot more where that came from. If you guys listen to Reggie's podcast. Can you say the name one more time for us?
Live Exposed.
Live Exposed all over, including I listen on Spotify. But appreciate you being on today, man. Thank you for taking the time. How can people get a hold of you? Is there any, do you want to leave anybody with any places to go check out or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I'm all over social media. I'm an influencer, Tim.
Hey, buddy, me too. I guess me too. Then we're both on the same track.
No, I'm easy to find on Facebook and LinkedIn, and those are my primary two places. Instagram, I do some stuff on, but just reach out to me. I'm happy to talk, and come up and grab me at one of these events that we're at. I'd love to meet you, and everything has to start somewhere, right? So if you're looking for help, and I might not be that guy, but I know people. Tim knows people. You have to get out and make an effort to attach and connect with people, and they'll help. They can help more than you think. Don't isolate yourself, and if I can help you, reach out to me, and I know Tim feels the same way. Black guy and all.
Black guy and all, bro, and he still got up and he's doing the work.
That's right.
I appreciate you spending the time. I think this will be impactful and useful to folks. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thanks, guys.
The Hook Better Leads podcast, put on by hookagency.com and Hook Agency on social. All right, bye.
Bye.